Coolest reptile podcast in the world, Trap Talk Reptile Podcast. Not your typical Trap Talk Reptile episode, I'll tell you that much. But what's good, everybody? I'm your boy, MJ. Hit that like button, all right? Especially if you love leopard geckos. I don't want this attached to the trap. But yeah, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm going to keep it 100. It was episode 309, a guy named Frank, Geeky Gecko Creation. I quickly unfollowed Frank right after I followed him, only because I noticed he was dabbling into the ball python game. And those are the posts I was really paying attention to. And I was seeing some shit that was making me cringe. He cut a clutch open, which whatever. He cut it on whatever day. When I saw this, I just was like, I'm over it. I was like, dude, I should go tell him something. But I'm going to be honest with you guys too. I don't think this guy gets it. I had ambitions of bringing him on the show tonight. Video he put out, the responses, deleting comments. This dude is like acting like he ain't doing shit wrong. Dude, if I get someone like that on the show, we're not getting anywhere, unfortunately. There's people out there who just can't own up to nothing. Even though that there's videos, there's all this proof. Reptile Community Fridays on the leopard gecko community and how they feel about this guy being banned. Is it legit? Is it valid? Let's find out. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Seth from Huff Herps. What is up, Seth?
What's up, MJ? Just grinding over here. I'll give you the quickest backstory I can. Basically, all of the leopard gecko breeders that have been around for any amount of time, and that's not to say 20 years or 15 years or just like any time longer than this guy came in the hobby, which I want to say he came in about 2019-ish, maybe 2020. I'm not certain on that. Don't quote me on that. But around that time is when he came onto the scene. He had some really nice animals that he had already bought from good, legit breeders. Started, touting that he was going to start working with lemon frost, and he had this project that he picked up from somebody that was an outcross project that somehow nobody had thought of. He was going to continue on with this, and every one of the breeders that had been around for any amount of time at this point spoke up to him in the comments of his original post and was just like, hey dude, everybody came at him respectfully at first, education manner, what I mean, like hey dude, you're new, you don't know what's going on, you weren't here a few years ago when this came out, but this is what's going on. Because we had already seen this a few times as far as the lemon frost gene, which is the biggest controversial thing that he's ever worked with. Okay. And the main reason that nobody or very few people have respect for him as far as the legitimate breeders. The lemon frost gene is something that came out way back in, I want to say 2015, 2016, worked with briefly by a breeder, and then several other breeders obviously got bought into the project. And I'll give it to you in ball python terms. It's basically as if a new morph came out, and a few years into it, Miguel and Justin both came forward and was like, hey guys, as beautiful and unique as this morph is, it's not viable. Every fucking one of them is going to have tumors and cancer and of some degree, because that's basically what we had with the lemon frost. At a certain point, several of the big breeders, one in particular, and I'm trying not to drop names here because I don't want to involve these guys in something that they're done with and they've been.
Are these big leopard gecko breeders you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, big leopard gecko breeders. I'm not trying to involve them in all this because they're done with this, dude. They've been done with it for years. These guys came forward and was like, hey, this is what we found, and everybody else pretty much, there was a consensus that there were very few of these animals that were completely 100% healthy and went on, without any kind of issue. And the main issue was literally tumors all over their bodies. Some of them really bad, most of them not as bad, but they determined that it was directly connected to the gene.
But if I don't mean to stop you for a second, but dude, there's not much research that needs to be even looked at. It's plain obvious how this lemon frost thing, it doesn't work. It's lose.
Exactly.
And we've had in the ball python community, there was a gene called Desert. Got some people out of the game, unfortunately.
That's the backstory on the lemon frost, and that had all happened before he ever came on the scene. Okay, I don't know the exact dates. Again, I'm not that fucking on my game with those numbers right now because I wasn't ready for this. I saw this shit go down, and I messaged you yesterday, and I didn't expect you to be like, yeah, tomorrow. So I don't really have all my research in front of me piled after y'all's episode a year ago. But anyway, I don't think it's really necessary to have it right now in front of us because the fact of the matter is everybody came to him respectfully and was like, hey, dude, that's kind of a no-go. You're going to really, I told him word for word, this is a long, dark, lonely road if you go down it. Not going to have support of anybody. Kind of alluded to that in y'all's episode. It was like, yeah, all these bigger breeders, you know, don't want to respect me and this and that, and don't want to let me in the circle. And it wasn't that. It was that we were giving him fair warning of, hey, dude, this is a hard stop. And his response to us was, well, nobody's outcrossed it yet. And it's like, dude, the breeders that worked with this a couple years before he got into the hobby had tens of thousands of dollars, which in gecko game is a lot of money on this shit, invested in this project, and their collections were the most vast collections genetically that anybody has. So to think that these guys didn't think to outcross this shit to see if it worked, you know what I mean? Like, they worked with it for a couple of years, saw that all of their different projects, because it's a codom, it's an incomplete dominant morph, so it's very quickly, you know, passing on to things. Response to us was always, well, the community needs results, like documentation. That's what he always kept saying, was we need documentation. Always like, dude, what are you talking about? This is the leopard gecko community. People breed these things by the thousands. There's no documentation of data, you know, that doesn't exist. What are you getting at here? His claims are that he's produced less than 100 of them. Claimed on your episode that he's only sold a few for $50, but yet there's a episode just a few months before y'all's episode on his channel of him scrolling through his website and having lemon frost babies available for $300 to $600.
Creations. I just did a huge website update. We have 26 geckos available, so you can go now to geekygecko.creations.com and you can scroll through what we have.
So explain that. Make that make sense. Shady about what he was doing, and my complaint to him always was, stop putting out this content that is catching the attention of these new people that are just coming into the hobby and don't know any better. And I told him, I was like, dude, you've got amazing animals. You've got amazing content. You've got a really good personality that's going to be like a very good success. This was back when he had like a couple thousand followers. I actually had phone conversations with this guy and telling him, like, look, dude, you're just going down the wrong road. Like, you have great stuff. You've invested in really quality animals. You have amazing looking stuff that's gonna really make a name for yourself. You don't need to do this. And in hindsight, honestly, MJ, I think he's a marketing genius, dude, because he knew that basically there's no bad publicity in today's society, and drama sells, and he instantly had all the big breeders talking about him, dude. He had a lot of people's attention really quickly because of the controversial things that he was doing right out the gate. And it wasn't just that. You know, there was a lot of other things too that a lot of people have serious complaints about, and I agree with a lot of those complaints.
So the thing that really bothers me is how, like, it's I've seen so many clear examples where he's not here for the animals. You know what I mean? Like, he's here for he has some other type of agenda or some type of reason, which is fine because everybody wants to be somebody. Like, I get it, right? But you don't exploit the animals, and you don't be that person. There's so many people out there, I don't even need a name, but people who went through the ringer getting like tormented about the way they act with animals, where they had to switch their shit up. No matter how quick you want to grow on a social media platform, like, dude, you're going to continue to separate yourself from the people who really do care about these animals. You can only go so far. But for somebody who's been doing this for only as long as he has, and look at the impact he's already making in a negative way, this is bad. He is delusional for sure. This is why he's not on the show, because I'm not going to have some delusional person on my and I'm not going to argue with some delusional person, but he feels like everything he's doing is okay. Like, it's not a big deal. And that's why he took down his hour video, because he realized it was only getting worse. It's like how he was telling people to go reach out to MORPH Market and to Rami.
Yeah.
And they got more emails saying to leave him out and it was like, dude, you don't, dude, and that's why I just don't think everything's there up top. I don't.
Dude, before he was ever on your show, Lemon Frost had already been canceled from MORPH Market as a morph. It was the only morph out of all the species of all the animals that MORPH Market has. It was the only morph of animal that had been completely banned.
And the fact is, like, there's the leading people within his own demographic in the reptile world trying to help him out. And that's one thing, man. Like, you can say what you want about me, but I've always taken the best advice that I've gotten and I changed my shit. And I'm always looking to evolve. That's like why I'm here. But when you have someone who thinks, oh, about this shit, I could vet my own animals, I'm a doctor, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's super delusional behavior. And it sucks because the animals are the ones that suffer by it.
I'll never claim to be perfect, dude. No one is perfect.
Yeah.
And I've made plenty of mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes that cost me, animals. Everybody's done it. If you haven't lost an animal because you've, in some kind of way, then you probably haven't been keeping animals for that long as far as reptiles go.
We don't need to get specifics, but whatever, it is what it is. I'm asking, like, what are the practices that he does that just are super big no-nos, other than picking up by the tail, obviously?
I actually use my gecko's tails and don't shy away from their tails whenever I start handling them as babies. And the reason I do it is because I want to kind of desensitize it and make it less likely to drop whenever I sell that gecko to a young kid. And I actually, use their tails kind of as a tool to kind of scoop them up, just gently, picking up their hind end and scoop my hand under them. And I teach my customers to do the same because I would rather a tail injury than a rib injury, rather than that kid grabbing that gecko, by the ribs and hurting it. I'd rather teach them how to scoop it up gently with a gentle tail pickup. But there's an art to it, and it's not like picking them up and flipping them and throwing them around and tossing the ball python. Like, there's a certain level of respect that these animals deserve. It's time and time again not shown that respect. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, because I'm going to tell you one thing, Seth. God bless the people out there who really love what it is that we do, and they take advice and they try it and they just continue to fail. And dude, this is not for everybody, because you have to be attention to detail. You have to be able to adjust if you want to take it to this level, right? And some people, like, not even like stubbornly, some people just don't have the eye. They don't understand, okay, that animal's up, you should do something about it. They just keep going, right? And I learned that from Barchek, because Barchek would introduce me to some of his workers, and I would like the workers, and then I would fly back and I'm like, yo, what happened to this worker? And he'd be like, oh man, that guy was terrible. And I'm like, what do you mean? He seems like he loved the animals. And then he would tell me specifically like what he was doing, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. It's sad. You would think this guy would be around, but no, not everyone is meant to do this. But the thing about this guy, it's beyond that. It's because it's more selfishness, you know what I'm saying? And he refuses to take advice. That's the biggest thing.
And from the get-go, he'll reach out to somebody for advice, and they'll give it to him, and then he'll turn around and regurgitate it on one of his lives or whatever as, his knowledge. And like you hit it on the head in your intro, talking about how he puts it on like he's been doing this way longer than he has. He's always saying, like, in all my years, and like just the way certain people talk and act like they've been doing it longer than they have. And there's no need for that.
He says it like subliminal messages. Like,
exactly.
He knows whoever's listening is going to keep hearing that, and they're going to be like, wow, this guy's an expert. All because he keeps saying it. This is why I'm so cold to COVID breeders in general, because they know they can't fool me. Like, I see right through typical COVID ball python breeder. They're all out. They're all outfitted the same. That's why a lot of those guys stay away from me. But this guy, like you said, he figured out a way to get some sort of following, but it's not the right kind of following. First and foremost, say what you want, 170,000 something subscribers, but you get 20 something likes on an average video. I don't give a what you did to get those subscribers. That does not make any sense to me whatsoever. And I refuse to ever have a ratio like that where I have 100K subscribers, but not even 300 people watch my videos. That does not make sense, bro. Like, that does not compute. That right there is obvious. And another thing that just bugs the shit out of me is you're paying for something that does no use for you. Like, you may be fooling some people, but you're not fooling the right people. That's what I'm saying. God, I can't believe I had him on my show.
Whenever I messaged you, I was like, kind of torn about messaging you. And I was like, I don't know if I really want to bother with it. And I don't know if he's going to receive this well, you know what I mean? Or the way that I expect him to receive it. And I was actually pleasantly surprised whenever you were messaging me back and you were like, yeah, dude, we need to talk about this.
Because Seth, only because the amount of messages I was getting, and I will tell you, old MJ kind of would have responded like defensively, because I mean, but then I also remembered who we're talking about here, and I knew right away. Hold on, these people. As soon as I went to Instagram, I saw your message, and I was like, holy shit, what's happening right now? And then I saw the Instagram clips, and it all started unraveling. Like I told you, I wasn't going to address this only because I didn't want to look like someone who just wants to create drama. Like, you're here by yourself talking to, like, why don't you just take down the video? But at the end of the day, like, I have someone I could actually connect with on this matter, because you did give me the heads up. You did reach out to me and told me all about what was happening. And what really gets me going was the fact that he had the nerve to defend his actions because of ball python people and retic people. Categorized everything you do on a low standard because of ball python and retic people.
His early arguments to us whenever we were calling him out on breeding lemon frost was, well, you guys put every animal at risk that you ship, so that's the same. There's so many things. I don't even want to. So here's the thing. I would rather not focus on the person, MJ, because I don't hate the person. I don't hate him as a person. I hate what he's done, and I hate the impact, the negative impact that he's had on the hobby, especially newcomers that think that things are okay that they see him do, like this tiny housing for his geckos, like the, breeding geckos with backward limbs just to see what happens. You're not a scientist, bro. Like, there's no reason with all these animals that you have to work with animals that have defects. Anytime there's a defect that could possibly be genetically passed on, why even mess with it? I have a story about that with the fat tails that I work with. I had a group of fat tails that had a neurological disorder, and they would like turn circles and aim off. When I realized that it was something genetic, I put the brakes on the project, and I reached out to everybody that I could, and I bought back like $5,000 worth of fat tails from people. And some of the people that I reached out to were like, no, dude, it's good. I appreciate you reaching out, but this is just a pet and mine is fine. But I bought back every animal that I could from that project. Most of them ended up not having issues. And the ones I bought back, I observed for a while, and then I headed most of them out to one specific person that is kind of like, she likes rescue stuff, and she got most of them. And all the other ones I petted out with full knowledge of exactly what was going on. And we're not talking about a lot of animals. I mean, they were like $400 to $500 a piece animals. So do the math, a dozen animals or whatever. I felt like I was doing as much of the right things I could in that situation. But that's what I'm talking about, is just like putting the animals first and realizing what is in their best interest. Because at the end of the day, like a buddy of mine that I'm sure is in the chat here, Gary, he always has a saying of, we're all keeping animals in a box, no matter what size.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Or type of box that is. We're all keeping animals in our box for our enjoyment. Right. And that's the truth, bro. Like, that's facts.
Yeah.
And
100%.
I'm not gonna lie, I have geckos right now in tubs smaller than I would like, because the market hasn't been as good as I expected it to be last year. And I'm sitting on some males. But guess what? Guess what I'm not doing? Breeding those species that I'm sitting on. You have to police yourself, and that's the problem with our community and our society, is there's not enough self-policing. At the end of the day, especially the reptile hobby, I feel like a big problem is the short ass memory, dude. We got the memory of a goldfish as far as remembering who has been shitty. Like, people can duck out for a couple years and come back with Even if they...
Can I correct you right now, Seth? You want to know why the memory is so shitty? Because the money's covering the memory. That's why. There's some sort of connection, or there's some sort of business deal for another big breeder and make that person relevant. Okay? Because the reason why some of these are still around is because there's other people putting money in their pocket. And we can't do nothing about it. This is why I'm glad the ball python community should look at leopard gecko community as an example, because you guys aren't standing for this shit. I saw just in my DMs How many people were pissed off about this guy and they did not want this shit to slide? There are shit ball python breeders, okay, who are just still lingering around after they've done so many wrong things to other people. And you just hear stories of it. And you're like, well, what's going on? A lot of it is hush hush. You know what I'm saying?
That's funny you say that, because there's actually a morph of leopard geckos that it has a lot of similarities in the issues that spider ball pythons have. A neurological issue where they're all wobbly and shit. They're like, every single one of them is going to have the issue to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, some people like them, but you don't breed them. You don't breed them.
Well, there's a morph similar to that in the leopard gecko game called Enigmas. And those have actually been, like, there's very few people with them anymore, dude. Like, and the ones that do don't really advertise it very much. Like, it's kind of behind closed doors and sell them at shows and shit, you know?
I mean, let's be honest. If we really love what we love, how do we let any kind of shit like this slide? Because it's only going to affect what we do down the road. Like, there's people who've been doing this. Is like, Seth, how long have you been doing this for now? It seems like a very long time, but how long have you been doing this?
9 years, which in the leopard gecko world is kind of an eternity.
Right. 9 years. I mean, it seems like you've been around a lot longer than 9 years, to be honest. But either way, like I said, like I will tell you one thing, Seth. Oh, that good karma comes right back tenfold in the animal game,
dude. Absolutely,
dude. Because I'm telling you right now, what I do, Seth. Check this out. Especially in a situation like this, whenever we're talking about something that's going down and I have a co-host on, there's usually somebody who has something to say about the guest. No matter how many other people are like, man, this guy's awesome, there's usually that dickhead. And I have not seen one dickhead on your name. I'm actually seeing nothing but people that are happy to see you be a part of this. That speaks volumes, bro. Just so you know. And I think that's all because of the way you are and the way how you take care of shit. And it's all about standing on your business, bro, because it comes back.
Dude, one thing I can promise you is that anybody that really knows me knows that I am as straight up as it goes, dude. I will, to a fault, lost potential friendships over my bluntness and over my just like saying it like calling it like I see it. You know what I mean? I guess it comes from I've spent 20 years in the oil field. And so, like, there's no room for bullshit out there, dude. Yeah, I'm a dickhead. You know, I'll say it. Like, anybody that knows me. I'm a dickhead in the sense that I
can relate.
As much as that's lost me some potential friendships over the years, I guarantee you it's also solidified some friendships. The people that are close to me know that I'm real, dude. One thing that really bothers me about like a lot of YouTubers or whatever is just the fakeness, you know. And I get it; it's a production. Yeah. It's part of the thing.
Content.
And that's my thing is like over the years, I've always been very steadfast and unwavering of the fact that this guy was not doing things the right way, not by my standard. I mean, I hold myself to a really, really high standard, and naturally I hold others to that same standard in the back of my mind. It really bothered me how much he was reaching all of the younger generation that were just coming in, because YouTube is that next platform that like is the most popular for the young kids.
I also didn't want him to have to make that an excuse on why he's getting attacked because how big his YouTube is or because he's growing. Because a lot of people in the influencer game always crutch on that and they say, well, it's because they're jealous of me. Well, I mean, dude, some of it's true, but not in this case, buddy. Not even a little bit.
I've always said about several morphs and just these animals in general, they should not have to suffer for their beauty, dude. Just because something looks really badass, make it okay for us to continue working with it if it's detrimental to the animal's health, such as the Enigma and the Lemon Frost genes of leopard geckos. So here's the thing, dude. I've thought a lot about that, and ball pythons are very similar. They are both such easy species to keep that anyone can do it,
right,
and do it very lazily and very cost effectively at the detriment of the animal. And it doesn't show on the table at the expo. It doesn't show on the pictures. It doesn't even show when you receive the animal, because they're such hardy species. They're so easy that people can get away with it, dude. They can neglect the out of them and get away with it. And that's the hard truth of those two species, dude. It's part of why they're so popular, because we can sell them to starters and they can, 70% of the time, they can have success if we steer them right out of the gate. Yeah. But, you know, it's it's a double-edged sword.
It's almost like that Petco and PetSmart mentality, and what they do. It's like they give you something to where even if you neglect it, it'll stay alive long enough to where you'll want another one. You just come right back like, hey man, you spent 8 months. It looks, oh, that must have, how it's weird how it died. Take another one. The game is to multiply, not to give them one and let it die in a year and come back and get another one. That's not what we mean by repeat customers. It's crazy to me how people don't want to take the time on trying to mentor people on how to, like, and also us reading. Like, if you sell reptiles, you need to be good at reading people on who you're selling this animal to. Like, and it takes work, but you have to.
After every expo, I look at my wife and, you know, on our way home, and most times I'm able to look at her and say, I felt good about every sale we made this weekend. You know, I felt good about every home that those geckos went home to.
I do have to ask you this, Seth. You know, you being what you know as far as within the leopard gecko community, are there other people out there like the person we were just talking about earlier? Like, is it multiple? Or-
No, dude, there's plenty of people that are not doing things correctly in my eyes or in a lot of people's eyes. It's just, this is the most public individual and the most, like I said, catering to the 8 and 9 year olds that are just discovering leopard geckos and seeing like, oh, this guy keeps them in sandwich containers. That's okay to do.
Now, let me ask you another question, Seth. At the level to basically him being exiled, do you think it's necessary?
In my honest opinion, I think this is a long time coming. I think that he, like you said, he's trucked along acting like he's doing no wrong and not changing any of his ways, not taking any advice from any of us that have been in the hobby. I don't care whether it's longer than him or not. Reason that some people are successful and some people aren't. And most of that reason is that they're doing shit right. And they have established themselves as a respectable member of the community. Things the way he's done out the gate with no regard for anybody's advice or, you know, and I'm not trying to be a gatekeeper, man. I'm not after everybody and saying you have to do it this way and this is the only way to do it. And there's plenty of things that I would like to do better in my collection, and I'm striving to do better. I said it already, but like, I'm not perfect, but I strive for perfection with these animals. You know, I'll never get there. I'll never be perfect. But if I stop trying, then that's doing them a disservice, especially if you're trying to make a career out of these animals. And that's another thing that I've kind of realized over the last 3 years, especially when I've tried to, you know, make this full time, is that especially leopard geckos alone, that's a species that's really hard to make a full-time living. The only way to do it is to do it in really big numbers and move volume. Otherwise, there's not any profit in it. And that's a fact. That species, there's just too much saturation of, and it's too much of an entry-level animal without the high price tag that like ball pythons bring for other projects. I mean, the most expensive leopard gecko you're going to find out there is maybe $3,000.
But how's the leopard gecko market even doing as a whole right now? Like, are people struggling, like, for the most part, a lot of other people?
Yeah, no, this last year's been tough for the Leo game because I do leopard geckos and fat tails, and compared to the fat tails that I produced, I'm having much harder time moving the leopard geckos. And, you know, part of that's because I market the fat tails more because that's my passion is the fat tails. I have passion with leopard geckos too, but the fat tails have been kind of my main focus for the last 5 years, so 6 years. Over 200 fat tails last year and less than 200 Leos last year. And I've got like 30 fat tails available and over 100 Leos that are either available or will be available once those sell. So that's just an example. Like, I'm not making any Leo pairings right now. I've got all kind of girls that are ovulating that I'm not even looking for ovulations because I have no interest in leopard gecko eggs at the moment. The last 3 years I've been trying to do the geckos full time, and it's been awesome, you know, being my own boss and have my own hours and shit, but it's been a grind. It's been 60-hour weeks and very little actual profit to show for it. You know what I mean?
I found something that could kick you in the balls worse than ball pythons. Cause you know, at least with ball pythons, when this shit happens, and at least like there's high level transactions happening. Like, you can make a snake that could change everything for you. Right. But like, it almost seems like exactly like ball pythons, leopard gecko people could come in and figure it out. And within how many years can they start breeding?
I have a pair of leopard geckos from me that just hatched a few months ago, and you can be breeding them next spring. Less than a year. People, honestly, in like 6 months, a lot of these have their first ovulation. I don't do it. I don't breed them, honestly, until their second year of ovulating, which is usually around a year to a year and a half. That's my personal practice, and that's the leopard geckos and the fat tails that I do that with. But a lot of people will breed leopard geckos, and even some people will breed fat tails really young. The size requirement that a lot of people have in their heads, and a lot of people, once they get there, they just go with it, regardless of the age of the animal. There's a lot to be said that in the wild they would be bred anyway, but we're not in the wild, and especially the fat tails, they can go down really hard. Like the females, a harder species because they are more delicate. In my eyes, minimum age requirement there, but a lot of people do it differently. And I'm not trying to be a gatekeeper or anything. There's just certain things that in my eyes is more important.
And I'm curious, did you witness a lot of turnaround, meaning people coming in and coming right out during COVID, like a lot of people trying it and then it just didn't work out for them?
Oh yeah, well, that's the leopard gecko hobby in general. They're around with leopard geckos, period, dude. If you've been breeding leopard geckos for 6 years, you're a veteran, straight up. Those of us that have been in the game for close to 10 years are really kind of the more senior examples. And then there's the cats that have been doing it for 15-20 years that are at the top of the game.
Last thing I want to ask you tonight before I let you go, anyone out there listening, what do you want your overall message to be after tonight's episode?
I think that people need to take a step back and look at how they're approaching this hobby and what kind of respect they're giving to these animals. Really be considerate of who's taking in your content, and it matters what we're portraying to the rest of society. And just because it's content, that's not an excuse to waver on certain things. My general feelings on it, don't be fake. Just be real.
Yeah, and I think more importantly, just do the right thing. Just do what's right. Because
yes, exactly.
Because just by being having a heart and having empathy for certain situations and doing right things in the animal world comes back tenfold. I'm telling you right now, I've experienced. Just be nice, do what's right, don't be greedy, because being greedy, dude, it exposes you. And this guy's just being exposed for everything. You know what I'm saying? And it all catches up. That's why it's man, I don't hate the guy, because every time I met him, he was very nice. You know what I mean? I don't think I would ever want to go have lunch with him. I'll be honest. I always felt like that we weren't connected on, but respectable guy. But at the end of the day, man, there are just certain actions that humans shouldn't be portraying by an animal, and you need to go fix your shit, bro. If it gets to the point where your local shows don't want you around, Rami don't want you around, your own community don't want you around, you need to you need to go look in the mirror, dude, for sure. I wish him the best, dude. I wish him the best. Honestly, Seth, thank you so much for hanging out. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. We had just shy of 150 people tapped in. So for all the supporters you had, everyone who enjoyed what you had to say tonight, what do you have to say to everyone?
Just thanks for everybody's support. It was a little bit nerve-wracking doing this. We can have another episode on different circumstances and not be talking about this bullshit.
No, for sure. Yeah, we definitely need a Huff Herps episode.
I was actually thinking about it today. I was like, man, it kind of sucks that I'm going to be on MJ's podcast and it's Frank's face on the goddamn thumbnail. That's gay.
Man, we'll give you an episode. Don't even worry. No, but listen, appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your night. And guys, can you please go give him a follow on Instagram? But give it up for Huff Herps. It's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Later.
Wow. Damn. Now I'm informed, super informed. And at the end of the day, like I said, it's not always fun to have to approach stuff like this. But when my logo Trap, when Trap Talk's attached to something that resembles something that I'm not cool with, and I don't like being bamboozled, I don't like being faked out, and I don't want to say I was fully faked out, but he pump faked me a little bit. I'm glad I got someone on with the credibility such as Seth from Huff Herps to come on and help me delegate the situation, just figure out what's going on. But there you guys have it. All right. Shout to the leopard gecko community for standing on what's right, coming together. That's epic. All right. It's better than letting money keep things hush hush. And I'm not just saying that just happens in certain community. It happens everywhere. All right. And true to yourself. Thank you so much. All right. And I hope you guys enjoyed this, blue moon of an episode. Fridays don't always go down like this, but When in need, it shall happen. Coolest reptile podcast in the world. All right, that's a wrap. Appreciate everyone so much. Everyone in the chats, thank you for the love and support. Like, this was your first time hanging out, hit that subscribe button. All right, if you're into keeping reptiles and you want the coolest content to learn about how to keep and breed reptiles, this is the podcast to be subscribed to. So hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, select all. You'll be reminded of all my podcasts that I drop here on this channel. But yep, that's a wrap. All right, no episode here. This is just what an awareness episode. Have a good weekend. I'll see you here Monday, and I'm out. Thank you for watching this week's Trap Vlogs. Please remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way you're on top of every single vlog I drop here on this YouTube channel. If you're looking for exclusive content, please click the very first link you see in the description below. Join the Trap Talk Patreon family. As soon as you join the Patreon family, you get a link to the Discord, which will tap you in. I'll catch you guys here next week for another Trap Vlogs, and I'm out. Cheers!